The discovery at Moonfall Creek, the morning mist clung to the surface of Moonfall Creek like whispered secrets. And Marcus Reed barely noticed its beauty anymore. 3 years of exile on this remote forest moon had dulled his appreciation for the alien landscape that surrounded his research station. He moved through his morning routine with mechanical precision, collecting water samples and checking his botanical equipment with the efficiency of a man who had nothing but time. Marcus had once been considered brilliant by his colleagues at the Terran Science Institute. His research on xenobotany had earned him recognition across human space, but that felt like a lifetime ago. Now his muscular frame moved with the careful economy of someone who had learned to live alone. His dark hair grown long and unkempt, his green eyes holding shadows that hadn't been there before the incident on Proxima Station. The creek bubbled cheerfully as he knelt, tied it, filling his collection containers with the crystal-clear water. The forest around him hummed with alien life creatures that chirped in harmonies no earth animal could produce, while bioluminescent flowers opened their petals to catch the amber sunlight filtering through the canopy above. It was peaceful here, and peace was something Marcus had desperately needed after watching his research team die in that laboratory explosion. That's when he saw her at first. Marcus thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The figure downstream seemed to shimmer like a mirage, her form partially obscured by the drooping branches of a silver-leafed willow that grew beside the water. But as she moved, stepping deeper into the creek, Marcus realized she was very real and completely unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin was the color of liquid moonlight, a luminescent silver that seemed to glow from within. She was tall and graceful, with a figure that spoke of both strength and femininity. Her hair cascaded down her back like spun starlight, appearing almost white in some angles and pale blue in others. She wore what looked like a garment made from woven water itself, transparent and flowing. Clinging to her curves as she moved through the creek, Marcus found himself frozen, his water containers forgotten in his hands as he watched her bathe. She cupped the alien water in her palms and poured it over her shoulders, the droplets catching the light like scattered diamonds. Her movements were fluid and unconscious of beauty, yet more graceful than any dance Marcus had ever witnessed. Then she turned, and Marcus felt his world shift beneath him. Her face was hauntingly beautiful in a way that transcended species. High cheekbones, framed eyes the color of deep ocean water, aquamarine pools that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. Her features were delicate yet strong, with lips that curved in a natural expression of wonder as she noticed him watching her. For a moment that stretched like eternity, they stared at each other across the width of the creek. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat as those incredible eyes met his, and something passed between them that needed no words, no shared language, no common origin. It was recognition of a kind he had never experienced. As if some part of his soul had suddenly awakened from a long sleep. The woman, for he could think of her as nothing else despite. Her clearly alien nature made no move to cover herself or flee. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with the same intensity with which he was studying her. Her lips parted, and when she spoke, her voice was like music made audible. "You are human," she said, and Marcus was surprised to hear her speak his language, though with an accent that made each word sound like a gentle caress. "I am," Marcus managed, his own voice rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat and tried again. "I didn't know anyone else lived on this moon." A smile played at the corners of her mouth, transforming her beauty into something that made Marcus's heart race. "I do not live here," she replied, taking a step closer to the bank where he knelt. "I am ... traveling." Marcus set down his containers, his scientific mind warring with something much more primal and immediate. Every instinct told him to approach her, to close the distance between them, but he remained where he was, afraid that sudden movement might cause her to disappear like a dream. "My name is Marcus," he offered. Marcus Reed. She seemed to consider this, her head tilting again in that endearing gesture. "I am called Naya," she replied, "and you are the first human I have met who does not look at me with fear." The statement puzzled Marcus, but before he could ask what she meant, Naya began to wade toward the shore where he knelt. The water swirled around her legs, and Marcus noticed that where she touched the creek, Tiny points of light seemed to dance in her wake, as if her very presence charged the water with some form of energy. As she drew closer, Marcus could see more details that marked her as beautifully alien. Her ears were slightly pointed, and there were faint patterns etched into her silver skin. Designs that looked almost like circuit traces, but moved and shifted as he watched. Her hair, he realized, wasn't quite hair at all, but something more like flexible fiber optics that carried light along their length. "You have been alone here for some time," Naya observed. Her aquamarine eyes, taking in his overgrown appearance and the solitary nature of his equipment. It wasn't a question. 3 years, Marcus admitted. "How did you know?" "Loneliness has a scent," she replied simply, stepping onto the bank with movements that seemed to defy gravity. "And you carry much sadness." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. He wasn't used to being read so easily, especially by someone he had just met. "And you?" he asked, attempting to deflect attention from himself. "Do you travel alone?" Something flickered in Naya's expression, a shadow that passed over her features like a cloud across the sun. "I am between destinations," she said carefully. "My people do not stay in one place for very long." There was more to that story, Marcus realized, but something in her tone warned him not to press. Instead, he found himself saying, "You're welcome to share my camp. If you need a place to rest," the offer surprised him even as he made it. Marcus Reed had not invited another living soul into his space in 3 years. Yet something about Naya made him want to break that isolation, to learn everything about her. To understand the sadness he glimpsed behind her ethereal beauty, Naya studied him for a long moment. And Marcus had the distinct impression that she was weighing risks he couldn't begin to understand. Finally, she smiled, and the expression was like sunrise after a long night. "I would like that, Marcus Reed," she said. "Though I should warn you, my presence here may bring complications you are not prepared for." Marcus looked into those incredible aquamarine eyes and felt something shift inside him. Something that had been dormant for 3 years suddenly stirring to life. Whatever complications she might bring, he found he didn't care. "I think," he said softly, "that my life has been far too simple for far too long." Secrets beneath the surface, Marcus led Naya along the winding path to his research station. Hyper-aware of her presence behind him. The facility was modest, a cluster of prefabricated buildings connected by covered walkways, surrounded by his experimental gardens where earth plants grew alongside native species. It had been his sanctuary, but now he saw it through her eyes, and wondered what she might think of his self-imposed exile. "You study the growing things," Naya observed, her melodious voice carrying a note of approval as she examined the carefully tended plots. Her luminescent fingers brushed against a hybrid flower that had never bloomed before, and Marcus watched in amazement as the petals suddenly unfurled in brilliant shades of purple and gold. "Xenobotany," Marcus confirmed, trying to keep his voice steady despite the miracle he had just witnessed. "I'm researching how Earth's species adapt to alien environments." He paused. "Though I'm beginning to think I don't understand adaptation as well as I thought." Naya turned to him with that enigmatic smile that made his heart skip. "Understanding comes with patience, Marcus Reed, and with willingness to see beyond what we think we know." Inside the main building, Marcus offered her tea brewed from local herbs. Watching as she accepted the steaming cup with graceful hands, the afternoon light streaming through the windows seemed to be drawn to her silver skin, creating patterns that shifted and danced as she moved. "Tell me about your people," Marcus found himself saying. "I've never seen anyone like you before." Naya's expression grew distant, and she gazed out the window toward the forest. "We are called Zephyrians," she said softly. "My people are wanderers, you might say. We travel between the stars, never staying long in one place." "By choice?" Marcus asked, noting the careful way she chose her words. For a moment, Naya was silent, her aquamarine eyes reflecting depths of emotion Marcus couldn't fathom. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of profound sorrow. "Not by choice, no. We were once a proud civilization with a homeworld of great beauty, but that was before the Dominion decided we were a threat to their expansion." Her fingers tightened around the teacup, Now we are refugees, scattered across the galaxy, always running, always hiding. Marcus felt a surge of anger on her behalf. The Terran Dominion did this to you? The same. Your people's military arm has little tolerance for species they cannot control or assimilate. Naya's gaze met his. Yet you do not seem like them, Marcus Reed. You have kindness in your eyes, not conquest. I left their service, Marcus said quietly. 3 years ago, there was an incident, an experiment that went wrong. People died because of my research. He had never spoken those words aloud before, but somehow with Naya, they came easily. Understanding dawned in her expression. And so you carry guilt, as I carry the grief of my scattered people. She reached across the small table between them, her luminescent fingers covering his hand. The touch sent warmth racing up his arm. Perhaps we recognize each other because we both know the weight of loss. The contact between them seemed to create its own energy field. Marcus found himself studying the intricate patterns that moved beneath Naya's silver skin, like living circuitry that pulsed with her heartbeat. Without thinking, he turned his hand palm up, intertwining their fingers. "What are those markings?" he asked softly. "They show our emotional states," Naya replied, not pulling away from his touch. "What do you call bioelectric feedback?" "They are more pronounced when we feel intense emotions." Marcus noticed that the patterns on her hand and forearm were indeed glowing brighter now, pulsing in rhythm with his own elevated pulse. "What do they say about what you're feeling now?" Naya's smile was soft and wondering. "They say I have found something unexpected. Something I thought lost to my people forever, which is hope," she whispered, "and perhaps something more." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility, until the peaceful afternoon was shattered by a distant sound, the unmistakable whine of atmospheric craft descending. Through the upper atmosphere, Naya's expression transformed instantly from soft wonder to sharp alarm. She released his hand and moved to the window, her entire body tense with sudden fear. "They have found me," she said, her voice tight with controlled panic. "We must leave now." Marcus moved to join her at the window, scanning the sky. "Who?" "The Dominion. They're advanced scouts. They track us across the stars, never giving up, never showing mercy." Naya turned to him, her aquamarine eyes wide with urgency. "Marcus Reed, I have brought danger to your peaceful world. You must stay here. Tell them you know nothing. They may leave you unharmed." But Marcus was already moving, gathering supplies with the efficiency of someone who had learned to pack quickly during his years of research expeditions. "I'm not letting you face this alone," he said firmly. "I know these forests better than any Dominion scout. If we're going to run, we run together." "You do not understand," Naya protested. "If they catch you helping me, they will show no mercy. Your own species will not protect you." Marcus paused in his packing to meet her gaze. 3 years ago, I failed to protect people I cared about. I won't make that mistake again." Something shifted in Naya's expression, surprise, gratitude, and something deeper that made the patterns beneath her skin pulse with brilliant light. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he could feel the subtle warmth radiating from her luminescent form. "You would risk everything for someone you have known for mere hours?" she asked softly, as Marcus replied without hesitation. "I would." Naya's hand came up to touch his cheek, her fingers cool and electric against his skin. "On my world, there is a concept called soul-binding, the recognition of a spirit that complements one's own across all barriers of time and space."
Ow.
Her thumb traced along his jawline. "I begin to think I understand it for the first time." The sound of approaching engines grew louder, cutting through their moment of connection. Marcus caught her hand and pressed it firmly against his cheek for a heartbeat before releasing it. "We need to move," he said, shouldering his pack. "There's an old mining complex about 10 kilometers north. The tunnels run deep. They shouldn't be able to scan us underground." As they prepared to flee into the forest, Naya caught his arm. "Marcus Reed," she said, her voice formal, despite the intimacy they had shared. "If we survive this, I want you to know, meeting you has been worth every risk." Marcus looked down into those incredible aquamarine eyes and felt something click into place in his chest. Like a piece of himself he hadn't known was missing, suddenly returning home. "We're going to survive this," he promised, leaning down to press his forehead against hers in a gesture that felt as natural as breathing. "And then you can tell me more about this sow binding of yours." The sound of landing craft echoed through the forest as they slipped out the back of the research station and melted into the alien wilderness. Two souls bound together by circumstance and something far deeper, running toward an uncertain future but no longer running alone. The hunt begins. The alien forest provided excellent cover as Marcus led Naya deeper into the wilderness. Their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of bioluminescent moss that covered the forest floor. Behind them, the distant sounds of the Dominion search teams grew louder, harsh voices shouting orders. The mechanical whir of scanning equipment, and the occasional snap of vegetation being trampled by heavy boots. Marcus moved with practiced stealth, his years of botanical fieldwork having taught him how to navigate the forest without disturbing its delicate ecosystem. Naya followed close behind, her natural grace making her nearly silent despite her unfamiliarity with this particular terrain. The patterns beneath her silver skin had dimmed two barely visible traces. Marcus noted some kind of natural camouflage response to danger. "The mining complex is still several kilometers ahead," Marcus whispered as they paused behind the massive trunk of a crystal bark tree. "Can you maintain this pace?" Naya's aquamarine eyes met his with quiet determination. "My people are built for endurance," Marcus read. "We have been running for generations." Sadness in that simple statement made Marcus's chest tighten. He reached out to touch her luminescent hand, offering what comfort he could. "Not forever," he promised. "This has to end sometime." Before Naya could respond, the sound of approaching voices made them both freeze. Through the undergrowth, Marcus could make out the distinctive black armor of Dominion soldiers, their helmets equipped with sensor arrays that swept the forest in methodical patterns. "Heat signatures are scattered throughout this sector," one soldier reported into his comm unit. "The local wildlife is interfering with our scans." "Expand the search perimeter," came the crackling response from their commander. "The target cannot have gone far. And remember, Commander Voss wants her alive. The human is expendable." Marcus felt Naya's hand tighten in his at the mention of the commander's name. Her face had gone pale, the natural glow of her skin dimming with what looked like fear. "You know this, Commander Voss?" Marcus whispered. "He commanded the fleet that destroyed my homeworld," Naya replied, her voice barely audible. "He has hunted my people across a dozen star systems. He believes we possess technology that rightfully belongs to humanity. Do you?" Naya was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. "We possess knowledge, yes, but not the kind he seeks. Our gifts are not weapons. They are tools of creation, of healing, of growth." She gestured toward the hybrid flower that still bloomed vibrantly where she had touched it hours earlier. "But to someone like Voss, all power is potential for conquest." The soldiers moved past their hiding spot, their heavy footsteps gradually fading into the forest sounds. Marcus waited several minutes before signaling for them to continue, leading Naya along a game trail that wound between massive root systems and clusters of singing crystals that chimed softly in the alien breeze as the day wore on. Their flight became a dance of concealment and movement. They would advance when the forest sounds indicated safety, and freeze and hide when the distant voices of searchers grew too close. During one such pause, pressed together behind a fallen log covered in phosphorescent fungi, Marcus became acutely aware of Naya's body against his. Her breathing was slightly elevated from their exertion, and the patterns beneath her skin pulsed with a soft rhythm that seemed to synchronize with his own heartbeat. When she turned her head to check their surroundings, her lips came within inches of his, and Marcus felt an almost gravitational pull toward her. "Marcus," she whispered, her aquamarine eyes searching his face. "When I spoke of sow-binding earlier, I did not fully explain what it means for my people." "Tell me," he breathed, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. "It means that when two spirits recognize each other, they become linked in ways that transcend physical form. Their emotions, their life forces, their very essence becomes intertwined." Her eyes dropped to his lips. "It happens rarely, and only with perfect compatibility. And you think that's what's happening to us?" I know it is, Naya replied softly. I can feel your emotions as if they were my own. Your determination to protect me, your growing affection, even your fear for my safety, it echoes in my spirit like a harmonic resonance. Marcus leaned closer, drawn by something more powerful than mere attraction. I feel it too, he admitted. Like I've been waiting my entire life to find you without knowing what I was looking for. Their lips met in a kiss that seemed to ignite the very air around them. The bioluminescent fungi began to glow brighter, responding to some energy field that surrounded the couple. Naya's skin patterns blazed with brilliant light, and Marcus felt a warmth spread through his entire body, as if every cell was awakening to new possibility. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard, and Marcus noticed that faint traces of light now seemed to dance beneath his own skin, echoing the patterns on Naya's form. The bonding has begun, Naya whispered in wonder. I have never heard of it happening so quickly or across species barriers. Is that dangerous? Marcus asked, though part of him didn't care. The connection he felt to her was becoming stronger by the hour, as if invisible threads were weaving their souls together. Unknown, Naya admitted. But if we are discovered before the bond fully forms, ... she trailed off, leaving the implication unspoken. A new sound cut through the forest. The distinctive hum of aerial drones deploying from the search craft. Marcus cursed under his breath as he recognized the tactical shift. Ground troops were one thing, but drones could cover far more territory and scan through the forest canopy. The mining complex is still 3 kilometers, he said urgently. Can you run? Naya's response was to surge to her feet with fluid grace, her hand finding his and pulling him forward. Together, they ran through the alien forest, their movements beginning to synchronize as the mysterious bond between them deepened. Marcus found himself anticipating her steps, matching her rhythm perfectly, while Naya seemed to instinctively follow the paths he chose through the dense undergrowth. Behind them, the whine of drones grew steadily closer, and Marcus caught glimpses of red scanning beams slicing through the canopy above. His lungs burned and his legs ached. But the thought of Naya in the hands of the man who had destroyed her world drove him forward with desperate strength. There, he gasped, pointing toward a ridgeline ahead where the dark mouth of a mine entrance was barely visible through the vegetation. Almost there. But as they approached the last stretch of open ground before the mining complex, a new sound made them both skid to a halt. The heavy thump of boots landing from above, followed by the distinctive whir of charging energy weapons. 3. Dominion soldiers had rappelled from a drone directly into their path, weapons trained on the couple with professional precision. Their black armor gleamed with sensor feeds and targeting systems, and their faces were hidden behind reflective visors that gave them an inhuman appearance. Zephyrian female. You are ordered to surrender, the lead soldier called out, his voice mechanically amplified. The human will step away and assume a prone position. Marcus stepped protectively in front of Naya, his jaw set with determination. Like hell. Marcus, no, Naya whispered urgently. They will kill you without hesitation. But Marcus was already moving, years of suppressed guilt and rage finally finding an outlet. He dove toward the nearest soldier, tackling him around the waist and sending them both crashing to the ground. The soldier's weapon discharged harmlessly into the canopy as they grappled for control. What happened next defied everything. Marcus understood about physics and biology. Naya's skin suddenly blazed with blinding light, and a wave of energy erupted from her position. The 2 standing soldiers staggered backward, their weapons sparking and failing, while every piece of electronic equipment within 50 meters began to overload and shut down. In the sudden silence that followed, Marcus looked up from his position, straddling the unconscious soldier, to see Naya standing with her arms outstretched, patterns of light flowing beneath her skin like liquid fire. She was magnificent and terrifying and completely alien. And Marcus had never loved anything more in his life. Now I understand why they hunt us, Naya said softly, her glow gradually dimming as she helped Marcus to his feet. Come, beloved. We have very little time before their reinforcements arrive. As they ran toward the safety of the mining tunnels, Marcus realized that their flight had become something more than mere survival. It was a race against time to complete a bond that might be the key to both their salvation and to understanding what it truly meant when two souls found each other across the vastness of space. Hearts across the stars, the abandoned mining tunnels stretched deep into the moon's crust. A labyrinth of passages carved by automated excavators decades before Marcus had ever set foot on this world. Emergency lighting strips along the walls provided minimal illumination, casting long shadows that danced as he and Naya made their way deeper underground. "The electromagnetic pulse you generated," Marcus said as they paused at a junction to catch their breath. "Will that disable all their equipment?" Naya leaned against the tunnel wall, the patterns beneath her silver skin still glowing softly from the energy she had expended. "Temporarily, yes. But it has also announced my location to every Dominion vessel within 3 systems. My people's gifts are ... distinctive. Your people can all do that? To varying degrees. We are what your scientists might call a bioelectric species. We can manipulate electromagnetic fields, encourage plant growth, even influence certain types of technology." Her aquamarine eyes met his. "It is why the Dominion hunts us. They believe our abilities can be weaponized." Marcus reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. The moment their skin touched, he felt that strange warmth again, and noticed that the faint traces of light beneath his own skin grew brighter. "The bonding you mentioned? It's doing something to me too, isn't it?" Naya nodded, her expression both wondering and concerned. "You are developing a resonance with my bioelectric field. It should be impossible humans lack the necessary neural pathways. Yet somehow you are adapting." They continued deeper into the tunnel system, following Marcus's mental map toward what he remembered as a larger chamber that had once housed mining equipment. The air grew cooler as they descended, and the sounds of pursuit faded until only their footsteps echoed in the darkness. "There," Marcus said, pointing toward an opening ahead where the tunnel widened into a substantial cavern. "We can rest there and figure out our next move." The chamber was roughly circular, carved from the living rock and lined with veins of crystalline, or that caught their meager light and reflected it back in prismatic patterns. Old mining equipment sat covered in dust and cobwebs, creating natural barriers and hiding spots throughout the space. Naya moved to the center of the chamber and placed her palms against the floor. Immediately, the crystal veins began to glow with soft bioluminescence, providing gentle illumination that revealed the full beauty of their refuge. "How did you do that?" Marcus asked, awed by the transformation. "Crystals contain trace amounts of organic compounds. With the right bioelectric stimulation, they can be encouraged to luminesce." Naya smiled at his expression. "My people have always been gardeners as much as we are wanderers. We shape the environment around us to provide what we need." Marcus set down his pack and began unpacking their meager supplies. "Is that what you were doing at the creek when I found you?" "Shaping the environment." "In a way, yes. I was cleansing myself of the traces of ship travel. Space leaves marks on the spirit that must be washed away with natural water and growing things." Naya's cheeks took on a deeper silver hue, what Marcus was beginning to recognize as her equivalent of a blush. "I did not expect to be discovered by such a handsome human." The compliment sent warmth through Marcus's chest, and he found himself moving closer to where she sat among the glowing crystals. "I'm glad I found you," he said softly. "Even with everything that's happened since, are you?" Naya asked, studying his face intently. "Your life was peaceful before I brought danger into it. You could have continued your research undisturbed." Marcus knelt beside her, reaching out to trace the patterns of light that flowed beneath her skin. "My life wasn't peaceful," he corrected. "It was empty. I was existing, not living. Hiding from the world and from myself." His fingers followed a particularly intricate pattern along her forearm. "You changed that the moment I saw you." Naya caught his hand and pressed it flat against her chest over her heart. The organ beat with a rhythm slightly faster than a human's, and Marcus could feel the energy that flowed through her entire being. "Among my people," she said softly. "To place another's hand over your heart is to offer them access to your life force. It is the deepest expression of trust and affection." Marcus felt his own heartbeat accelerate to match hers, and the light patterns beneath both their skins began to pulse in synchronization. "What happens if the bonding completes?" he asked. "I do not know," Naya admitted. "It has never been attempted between species before. We might share emotions, thoughts, even lifespans. Or," she hesitated, or the incompatibility might destroy us both. Marcus should have been frightened by that possibility. Instead, he found himself leaning closer, drawn by something more powerful than self-preservation. "I'm willing to take that risk," he whispered against her lips. "Are you?" Naya's answer was to close the distance between them, her mouth soft and cool and electric against his. This time, when they kissed, the chamber around them responded immediately. The crystal veins blazed with brilliant light, and Marcus felt energy flowing between them like a circuit completing itself. When they parted, both were glowing so brightly that the chamber looked like the inside of a star. Naya's skin had taken on an opalescent quality, while faint geometric patterns now traced visibly beneath Marcus's skin. Following the lines of his nervous system, bond is accelerating, Naya breathed, wonder and concern warring in her voice. "This should take cycles to complete, not hours." "Maybe it's because we're compatible in ways your people never imagined," Marcus suggested, his scientific mind marveling at what was happening to them even as his heart raced with the implications. Naya's hands framed his face, her thumbs tracing his cheekbones. "The patterns beneath your skin, they show your emotional state now, as mine show me. And what I see there, ... She paused, studying the flowing lights. "Marcus Reed, do you understand what you're offering me?" "A chance at something neither of us expected," he replied honestly. "A partnership. Future. Love, if you'll have it." The word hung between them like a bridge spanning the gap between their worlds. Naya's expression softened with an emotion so profound it made Marcus's chest ache. "Love," she repeated softly, as if testing how the concept felt in her mouth. "Yes, I think that is what this is. But Marcus, if we complete the bonding, there will be no going back. We will be connected for the rest of our lives, wherever our path leads us." Marcus thought of his empty research station, his years of isolation, his guilt over the deaths he hadn't been able to prevent. Then he looked into Naya's aquamarine eyes and saw a future filled with purpose, adventure, and connection beyond anything he had dreamed possible. "I've been going back for 3 years," he said quietly. "I'm ready to go forward instead." Naya's smile was radiant as starlight as she pulled him down to her among the glowing crystals. "Then let us see what the universe has planned for two souls who refuse to be bound by the possible." Their second kiss was deeper, more urgent, filled with the knowledge that they were choosing each other despite all odds. Around them, the ancient mining chamber became a cathedral of light as human and Zephyrian. Life forces began the final stages of an unprecedented bonding. High above, Dominion forces continued their search, unaware that in the depths below, something was happening that would change the course of both their species forever. Something that spoke to the infinite possibilities that emerged when fear was replaced by love. And when two hearts chose to beat as one across the vastness of space, love's triumph, sound of drilling echoed through the tunnels, growing steadily louder as Dominion forces worked to breach the upper levels of the mining complex. Marcus held Naya close in their crystal chamber, feeling the completed bond between them humming with shared energy and emotion. Where once he had felt alone, now he experienced her thoughts and feelings, as if they were extensions of his own consciousness. "They are using plasma cutters," Naya whispered, her head resting against his chest as she listened to the distant sounds. Through their connection, Marcus felt her calculating distances and timing. "They will reach this level within the hour." Marcus stroked her starlight hair, marveling at how the strands seemed to pulse with bioluminescence at his touch. "There has to be another way out. These mining tunnels were built with emergency exits. Even if we escape this moon, where would we go?" Naya's aquamarine eyes met his, and he felt her despair mixing with his own determination. "Commander Voss will never stop hunting. My people scatter across the galaxy like leaves in a storm, and he follows every trail, destroys every sanctuary we try to build. Then maybe it's time to stop running, Marcus said quietly, an idea forming in his mind. Through their bond, Naya sensed his thoughts before he could voice them.
Us.
You cannot face the Dominion fleet. You are one man. I'm not just one man anymore, he replied, touching the geometric patterns that now glowed permanently beneath his skin. I'm bonded to someone whose people have abilities the Dominion doesn't fully understand. And I'm a xenobiologist who spent 3 years studying the ecosystem of this moon. He stood, beginning to pace as his scientific mind worked through possibilities. The Dominion sees your gifts as weapons to be captured and controlled. But what if we showed them something else entirely? What if we demonstrated that your abilities are tools of creation, not destruction? Naya rose gracefully, her expression thoughtful. You have a plan, the beginning of one. Marcus moved to his pack, retrieving a small device he hadn't touched in 3 years, terraforming catalyst designed for rapid ecosystem development. This moon is on the edge of Dominion space, technically unclaimed. What if we could transform it into something so valuable that taking it by force would be politically impossible? Transform it how? Marcus's eyes gleamed with the excitement of discovery as he explained. Your bioelectric abilities can accelerate plant growth and symbiosis. My terraforming catalyst can seed massive ecosystem changes. Together, we could turn this entire moon into a garden world in a matter of days. Something so beautiful and ecologically perfect that it would attract attention from across the galaxy. Through their bond, Naya felt his passion for the project and began to understand its implications. A demonstration of cooperation instead of conquest. But Marcus, the energy required would be enormous. I would have to channel more power than any Zephyrian has attempted before. You wouldn't be alone, Marcus reminded her, taking her hands in his. We're bonded now. My life force is connected to yours. We could do this together. The drilling sounds were getting closer, but Naya barely noticed as she considered the audacious plan. It could work, she said slowly. But if it fails, the energy drain could kill us both. And if we do nothing, Voss captures you and your people remain scattered and hunted forever. Marcus squeezed her hands. I'd rather die trying to give your people hope than live knowing I could have made a difference. Naya's response was to pull him into a fierce embrace, her love and gratitude flowing through their connection like molten gold. Very well, my bonded heart. Let us show the galaxy what Zephyrians and humans can accomplish together. They worked quickly. Marcus setting up the terraforming catalyst while Naya prepared herself for the massive energy expenditure ahead. The device was roughly the size of a briefcase, filled with bioengineered organisms designed to rapidly alter atmospheric composition and soil chemistry. Once I activate this, we'll have maybe 6 hours before Voss realizes what we're doing, Marcus explained, making final adjustments. The changes will start at the surface and spread outward from the device's location. And I must maintain the bioelectric field that allows your organisms to work at accelerated speed, Naya added, already beginning to glow as she gathered energy. For 6 hours, without interruption? Together, Marcus corrected, moving to stand behind her and placing his hands on her shoulders. Remember, we're connected now. Share the load with me. As Naya began to channel energy through the completed bond, Marcus felt power flowing through his transformed nervous system unlike anything he had ever experienced. The geometric patterns beneath his skin blazed with light that matched hers. And together, they created a field of bioelectric energy that made the very air around them shimmer. Marcus activated the catalyst. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. Throughout the tunnel system, dormant organisms awakened and began their work. On the surface far above, the forest started to transform. Trees grew taller and stronger, their bioluminescent properties intensifying until the entire moon began to glow softly in space. Flowers bloomed in impossible profusion, releasing spores that would create atmospheric changes visible from orbit. Hour by hour, they maintained the field, while the moon transformed around them. Marcus felt Naya's strength fluctuating and poured his own life energy into their connection. Keeping her stable as she channeled more power than any individual Zephyrian had ever attempted. The Dominion forces, Naya gasped during the 4th hour, sweat beading on her luminescent skin. "They have stopped drilling. They're probably trying to figure out what's happening," Marcus replied, his own body trembling with exhaustion. Orbital sensors would be picking up massive ecological changes. "Ships," Naya whispered, her awareness extended beyond their chamber through the bioelectric field they were generating. "Many ships. Not all Dominion." Marcus grinned through his fatigue. "Word travels fast in space. I bet half the galaxy is sending science teams to investigate a garden world appearing overnight." By the 6th hour, when the terraforming catalyst finally exhausted its supply of organisms, the moon had been transformed into something unprecedented. Where once there had been a simple forest world, now there existed a paradise of impossible beauty, a living demonstration of what could be achieved when different species worked together instead of fighting. Marcus and Naya collapsed together among the crystal veins, their bonding deeper than ever after sharing such an intense experience. Through their connection, they felt each other's exhaustion and triumph in equal measure. "We did it," Marcus breathed, holding her close as their shared glow slowly dimmed to a comfortable level. "Yes," Naya agreed, her voice filled with wonder. "But now we must face the consequences of our choices." Those consequences arrived in the form of footsteps in the tunnels, multiple groups converging on their location. But when the figures appeared at the chamber entrance, Marcus was surprised to see not just Dominion soldiers, but beings from a dozen different species, all wearing the insignia of the Galactic Scientific Consortium. Commander Voss stood among them, his expression unreadable behind his helmet. "Dr. Marcus Reed," he said formally, "you stand accused of harboring a fugitive and illegally terraforming a neutral world." Before Marcus could respond, another figure stepped forward, an elderly Zephyrian, whose intricate skin patterns marked him as someone of great importance among Naya's people. "Commander Voss," the elder said in a voice that carried absolute authority, "I am Prime Researcher Kane of the Zephyrian Collective. We have been monitoring the unprecedented ecological transformation of this world. The Galactic Council is prepared to offer this moon-protected status as a joint research facility." With Dr. Reed and Navigator Naya's co-directors, Voss's helmet turned toward, the couple still glowing softly among the crystals. "You have created quite a diplomatic situation, Doctor. The entire galaxy is watching to see how we handle this." Marcus struggled to his feet, pulling Naya up beside him. "Then handle it with wisdom instead of weapons, Commander. Show the galaxy that humans can be partners instead of conquerors." For a long moment, the chamber was silent except for the gentle humming of the crystal veins. Finally, Commander Voss reached up and removed his helmet, revealing a weathered face marked by years of military service and the weight of difficult decisions. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "it is time for the Dominion to try a different approach." As negotiations began that would reshape relations between multiple species, Marcus and Naya stood hand in hand, their bond complete and their love proven through the ultimate test. They had found each other across the vastness of space, and together they had created not just a garden world, but hope for a future where differences could become strengths, in the gentle glow of the transformed crystals. Surrounded by representatives from across the galaxy, two souls who had chosen love over fear prepared to build something greater than either of their species had imagined possible alone. Their story would become legend, the human who loved a star-touched woman, and the Zephyrian who taught the galaxy that the greatest transformations begin when two hearts choose to beat as one. T.